In Unit 3 we will be looking at research aims, questions and objectives. We will be covering what the difference is between research aims, questions and objectives, as well as how you write and develop your own research aims, questions and objectives for your own research proposal, which is your assessment for this course. The session objectives are to be able to understand the role of research aims, questions and objectives, to be able to differentiate between research aims, questions and objectives, and finally to be prepared to start developing your own research aims, questions and objectives. Research aims, questions and objectives should all be linked together. The research aim is the broadest, and the research aim is the general statement that you want to achieve with your research. Research questions are the actual questions you want to be able to answer with your research, whereas your research objectives are the steps and stages that you will need to undertake in order to answer your research questions and achieve the research aim that you've set. We're now going to discuss each of these in a bit more detail individually. So your research aim is a broad statement of desired outcomes, and your research aim should paint a picture of your research project, and through this you should be able to emphasise what is to be accomplished. However, it does not detail how it will be accomplished, only what you want to accomplish with your research, and therefore it should be linked to your project outcomes. Research questions are fundamental to all research and should state what you're trying to find out or answer. Therefore, it's the question which you intend your research to answer. So for example, it could be, does management style affect employee motivation in company X? Therefore, it should be written as a question. All research should have a question that it seeks to answer to find out a solution to a problem or something you do not understand. Now, it's important that research questions do not have multiple parts. Therefore, it's important to make sure you avoid using language such as or and. And if you find yourself using these words, you should review and reconsider your research questions and probably break them down into separate research questions, because you should have a range of independent research questions which you can directly answer. Now, research questions can be split into two types. These are descriptive research questions and explanatory research questions. Descriptive research questions look at describing a phenomena, and therefore they focus and normally include the words what, who, when and where. So for example, what is happening in this meeting? Who is at the meeting? When is the meeting? And where is the meeting? Whereas explanatory questions are focused on how and why. So for example, how is the meeting undertaken? Or why is there a meeting? Now, a good research question should make an innovative contribution, and it's important to remember this when it comes to developing your own research questions. So you need to be able to think about what makes your research question worthwhile. In order to think about what makes your question worthwhile answering, it is important to consider what is the academic gap and what is the business need for your research. So the academic gap might be that previously this kind of research has not been undertaken, whereas your business need might be focused on the importance of answering this research question will have for your business. When it comes to developing research questions, it's important to be careful because there are three very common errors. The first is the research question is too big. Now, it's important that with your research you can explicitly answer your research question. And if it is too big or too broad, it might not be possible to explicitly answer the question at all, or it might not be possible to do it in the time you have. So for example, the question, what can be done to bring the UK out of recession, is so big, there's so much happening, it might not be possible to answer this question considering all the information, all the possibilities. It might be possible to answer it looking at only one small area, but then we're not able to answer this question because it's too big. Another problem we have is research questions can be too small and therefore too easy to answer. And if it's too small and too easy to answer, it doesn't really help us move forward. So for example, the question, what is the proportion of undergraduates who drink coffee? We could very easily and quickly answer this question by giving out a survey to students and asking them, do you drink coffee? And we could answer it quickly, but it wouldn't really give us much information that we could use which would be valuable. So therefore, it's too small and too easy to answer to be able to make an innovative contribution. The final point is sometimes research questions can be developed which do not provide anything new. And again, if it's a question which has already been answered, it will not make the innovative contribution we spoke of a minute ago. So it's important that research questions are novel and original and are able to answer something new. Research objectives are the steps you're going to take to answer your research question and meet your research aim. Therefore, research objectives must be focused and they must be feasible. If they are not focused and we don't know explicitly the steps we must undertake, we will not be able to undertake them. And likewise, if these research objectives are not feasible, we will not be able to undertake these steps and we will not be able to complete our project. So they must be sensible and precisely described. They should read as an individual statement to convey your intentions. And very importantly, they must be aligned with your research aim and your research questions, because these are the steps to answering your research question and meeting your research aim. So when it comes to aligning research aims, questions and objectives, if we think the other way from the narrowest to the broad, starting at the research objectives to the research aim, undertaking the research objectives should answer the research question. And then answering the research question should meet the research aim, so we can see how undertaking the steps, our research objectives, will answer our questions, and answering the questions we've posed will achieve our project goals and our project aim which we've set. So I now have an example: research aim, research question and objectives. So if our aim was to develop a brand image strategy for Worcester as a tourist destination, the question we might want to answer could be, how can Worcester's image be developed as a tourist destination? And the steps, the objectives we would need to complete in order to answer the question set and achieve and meet the aim set might be, firstly, to identify the strengths and weaknesses of Worcester's image. Secondly, to identify the most significant perceptions associated with Worcester. and finally to provide recommendations for branding Worcester as a tourist destination. So hopefully you can see if we followed the objectives, we could answer the question, how can Worcester's image be developed as a tourist destination? And if we answered this question, we would achieve and meet the aim we had set, which was to develop a brand image strategy for Worcester as a tourist destination.